After 7 years of loyal service, Princess Charlotte's bodyguard got fired under circumstances that left many shocked. However, what she did next went viral overnight, and for good reason. "She trusts me more than anyone else in the world, and I'd take a bullet for her," said Thomas Albridge, standing just outside Buckingham Palace on what would be his last day in service. It's not fair. After 7 unwavering years of service, Thomas Albridge, 41 years old, former Special Air Service operative turned Royal Protection Officer, had been let go without a word of farewell, no formal acknowledgement, no royal goodbye, just a handshake from the head of royal security and a folder labeled Transition. He had been guarding Princess Charlotte since she was 2, watching over her from the shadows during royal tours, public appearances, and those quiet family picnics the world never got to see. He wasn't just her protector, he was her safe space. In a world of palace protocols and royal expectations, Thomas had been the one constant that allowed Charlotte to just be a child. Their bond wasn't scripted, it was real. They had rituals. He'd always arrive exactly 2 minutes early for her morning school run. She'd always sneak him half of her shortbread biscuit during snack time. On long trips, they had a silent sign language code only they understood. It started as a way for her to signal discomfort during formal events, but grew into a full system of private gestures. But now, it was over, and no one knew why. The official explanation given to Thomas was vague. Internal restructuring. A shift in policy regarding long-term protection assignments. It sounded like something copied and pasted from a bureaucratic memo. He didn't argue. He simply nodded, handed in his identification badge, and turned to walk down the palace steps for the last time. Carrying in his jacket pocket a small silver bracelet Charlotte had slipped into his hand during a quiet moment just days before. It was engraved with a single line, 7 years. Thank you, Tommy. Across the palace courtyard, Charlotte was inside practicing piano with her tutor, completely unaware that her trusted protector had just been removed from her life. By the time she found out, through a passing comment from her older brother George, the damage had already been done. At just 9 years old, Charlotte was remarkably perceptive. She didn't cry or throw a tantrum. She just went quiet. Her mother, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, noticed the change almost immediately. The usual cheerful chatter at breakfast was replaced by silence. And when asked if anything was wrong, she simply replied, "I'm just tired." But Catherine knew her daughter better than that. Something had shifted, and it was bigger than just a childhood mood swing. Meanwhile, in Kent, Thomas was trying to adjust. He'd used a small portion of his savings to open a modest private security training facility for young veterans. It gave him something to focus on, structure, purpose. But every now and then, he'd look down at the bracelet resting on his desk and wonder how Charlotte was coping. He debated reaching out but ultimately decided against it. He knew how tight-lipped the palace could be, and he didn't want to stir unnecessary tension or cross any unspoken lines. He figured she'd eventually forget him. But he had underestimated the strength of the bond they shared. Because Charlotte hadn't forgotten. Not even a little. Charlotte wasn't just sad. She was processing a loss she couldn't talk about publicly. After all, what could she say? That her protector was gone? That no one even let her say goodbye? The adults around her assumed she was adjusting. But in private, Charlotte had begun a secret routine. Late at night, after her reading light was turned off, she would write letters, short, heartfelt notes on royal stationery. But these letters weren't sent to anyone. She folded each one carefully, tied it with a ribbon, and placed them in a wooden box hidden in the bottom drawer of her desk. In one, she wrote, "Dear Tommy, I still imagine you walking behind me during our school walks. I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodbye. I miss your stories. Love, C." As days turned to weeks, Charlotte's new bodyguard, Agent Liam Turner, 34, stern, ex-MI5, tried to build rapport, but it was clear he didn't understand her the way Thomas did. He followed protocol but lacked the warmth Charlotte had come to trust. Every time he tried to joke or ask her about her day, she offered polite but clipped responses. One afternoon, while attending a children's charity event, Charlotte was asked to give a short speech. She walked up to the podium, glanced at the sea of faces, and froze. It wasn't stage fright. It was the overwhelming realization that the man who always stood just to her right, just behind the camera flashes, was no longer there. She managed a smile and delivered her speech. But afterward, as she sat quietly in the back of the car, William turned to ask, "Are you okay?" "I miss someone," she said simply, staring out the window. Later that evening, as William and Catherine reviewed her behavior with a longtime nanny, they were told something unexpected. "She still talks about Thomas," the nanny said. "She even talks to him sometimes when she's alone in her room." It wasn't unusual for children to form deep attachments, but this wasn't just a phase. The emotional tether hadn't loosened. If anything, it had grown tighter with the silence. Back in Kent, Thomas continued to find small reminders of Charlotte tucked in odd places. An old drawing she had given him during a long flight to Canada. A note in his work folder that read, "You're the best ninja ever." One evening, while reviewing applications for his training course, he came across a thick envelope in his mailbox. There was no return address. Inside were a series of printed photographs. Charlotte at various events, standing beside her new guard. On the back of each photo was a small message written in pencil. "Still smiling, but not the same." Thomas didn't know who sent them, but he had a guess. Margaret, the family nanny, had always known he had a soft spot for the little princess. He tucked the photos inside the bracelet box and stared out the window for a long time. Meanwhile, Charlotte began to quietly plot something of her own. It was just a regular Thursday morning when Charlotte, dressed in her Navy school uniform, refused to come down for breakfast. "Not hungry," she muttered from under the covers. Catherine gently sat on the edge of her bed. "Lottie, are you feeling unwell?" Charlotte shrugged. "Number just tired." But the Princess of Wales could see it wasn't fatigue, it was something deeper. Charlotte was always an early riser, the kind of child who organized her books and brushed her doll's hair before anyone else was up. Now it was as if the light in her had dimmed. Later that evening, after putting her to bed, William and Catherine sat with Charlotte's longtime nanny, Margaret, and voiced their concerns. She took a deep breath before speaking. She's still grieving the loss of Thomas. She may not say it aloud, but she hasn't been the same since he left. William looked away. He'd suspected it, but hearing it out loud made it undeniable. She didn't just lose a guard. She lost a friend. Catherine shook her head. She's not moving on, Will. She's holding on to someone who's been completely cut out of her life without warning. Then Margaret said something that surprised both. "He misses her too, you know," she remarked. And that's when William did something he wasn't sure he was allowed to do. He made a discreet phone call. 2 days later, Thomas Albridge received a short email. "Would you be open to a private conversation? W." Princess Charlotte sat on the floor of her bedroom, legs crossed, surrounded by a pile of old photos, videos, and tiny keepsakes. A pink laptop rested on her knees, her personal device monitored by palace staff but not in real time. Next to her, her stuffed bunny sat upright, as if helping with the mission. She had a plan. Ever since her cousin Emily had shown her how to make a private slideshow with music, Charlotte had become obsessed with telling stories through pictures and videos. Now she was creating something very different, a tribute. It began as a simple project, a short video of her favorite memories with Thomas. But as she scrolled through photos on a hidden flash drive, birthdays, walks in the gardens, a time they built a snowman in Balmoral, it turned into something else, something deeper, a farewell. Charlotte selected background music, a soft piano instrumental. Then she recorded her voice. "This is my bodyguard. His name is Tommy. He protected me every single day for 7 years. He made me laugh. He taught me how to stay brave when I was scared. And one day, he just disappeared." Her voice cracked slightly at the end. She paused the recording, took a deep breath, and started again. Over the course of several evenings, Charlotte refined the video. She included scanned drawings he helped her with. The final shot was the bracelet she gave him, held up in front of the camera lens with her whispering, "This is for you." But there was one problem: uploading it. Charlotte knew how strict palace guidelines were. Every email, every text, even her drawings were reviewed by staff. But her cousin Emily had shown her a trick: how to create a private YouTube account that wasn't tied to any family profile. It would look like any other anonymous upload. The video sat in draft mode for 3 days. She would open the tab, hover over the publish button, and close it again. She wasn't scared of the consequences. She was scared of being misunderstood. Back in Kent, Thomas sat quietly across from Prince William in a private cafe on the outskirts of London. "She hasn't been herself," William admitted. "We didn't realize how much you meant to her until after you left." "I didn't leave," Thomas replied gently. "I was let go." William nodded slowly. "I know, and if it's any consolation, it shouldn't have happened that way." They parted without promises of reinstatement, but it was a moment of closure. respect, recognition. The next day, Charlotte woke early. The palace was quiet. Her tutor hadn't arrived yet. Breakfast hadn't been called. She sat in front of her laptop, heart pounding, hands cold, and with one quiet click, she hit publish. The tribute video went viral overnight, but Charlotte had no idea just how fast the world was about to react. By noon the next day, the palace press office was overwhelmed. It started with a handful of shares on a royal fan forum. Then a parenting blogger reposted it. By 2 p.m., the video had gained over 200,000 views, and by dinner time it had hit 1.4 million. The video was anonymous, no face, no signature, but anyone with half a clue could tell it had come from someone close, someone personal. His gentle presence in her life was clear, even to strangers. But what truly stunned viewers wasn't the imagery, it was the voiceover. Charlotte's young, genuine voice spoke with a grace and maturity far beyond her 9 years. He wasn't just my bodyguard, he was my friend. And even though I'm a princess, I don't always feel brave. But he made me feel safe. He made me feel like I could be myself. The public was captivated. Royal watchers, child psychologists, former guards, even journalists praised the emotional honesty of the tribute. Palace aides rushed to trace the source of the upload. Within an hour, they confirmed it. The video had been uploaded from within the Kensington Palace network. William and Catherine were in the middle of a charity gala when the press secretary whispered it in their ears. Catherine froze mid-sentence. William calmly stepped aside to review the footage himself. There was a moment of silence. Then he softly said, "She's telling the world what we should have said a long time ago." Charlotte, unaware of the storm she had sparked, was in her room coloring when a soft knock came on the door. "Come in," she called. Her mother entered, holding a tablet. "Lottie, you made something very beautiful." Charlotte looked up, surprised. "You saw it?" "I did, and so has half the world." Her eyes widened. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Catherine said, crouching beside her. "You're not in trouble. You were brave." That night after dinner, Charlotte sat with both her parents while a statement was carefully crafted by palace staff and released online. "We are deeply touched by the outpouring of support for Thomas Albridge, who served our family faithfully and with great care for over 7 years. We are grateful for his years of protection and for the bond he shared with our daughter Charlotte." The next day, Thomas's phone buzzed nonstop. His security school's inbox was flooded with applications. He didn't respond to the media frenzy. He didn't need to. Instead, he drove to a quiet florist in Kent and bought a bouquet of simple white daisies, Charlotte's favorite, and attached a card. "You have always been braver than you know. T." He sent it without a return address, but Charlotte didn't need one. When the flowers arrived, she smiled softly and placed them by her window. Then she picked up her stuffed bunny and whispered. A week after the video went viral, the palace arranged something rare in private. No press, no cameras, just a quiet Sunday morning walk in the palace gardens. Princess Charlotte, holding her mother Catherine's hand, approached a familiar figure waiting by the rose arches. Thomas stood by a bench in a gray coat and trousers. He smiled when he saw her but didn't move. Charlotte ran to him and hugged him tightly. "You really came," she whispered. "Of course I did," Thomas replied. "You called me, didn't you?" After walking and talking for half an hour, Charlotte asked, "Do you think they'll let you come back?" "I don't think that matters anymore," Thomas said gently. "We got our goodbye." When he left, there were no tears, only smiles and promises to see each other again. That night, Charlotte finally slept peacefully, knowing that our friend had never forgotten her and never would. Would you have reacted differently if you were in Princess Charlotte's bodyguard's position? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to join us again for more surprising stories.